this video is a blog post put out by Detective Dave Baumhover, who was the lead investigator for the Chris Watts case. I think it's really important for people to hear. So, here we go. Let me just read to you his, the cover of his blog series. It says, in March of 2019, I was diagnosed with acute PTSD subsequent to leading the investigation into a family annihilation perpetrated by inmate Chris Watts. Through therapy, I've learned the Watts case wasn't the cause of my PTSD, but rather the final straw, as it were. The point of this blog is to share my story with hope it will help others struggling, and to help break the stigma surrounding mental health care and wellness of first responders. Although I don't consider myself a Bible beater, I will discuss how my career drew me away from my faith and how the Watts case later renewed my faith in God. If that offends you, I suggest you stop here. So that's basically his, cover letter, I guess I would say, for his blog to introduce himself. And there's really quite a few great blogs that he wrote, blog posts that he wrote that are very, very interesting. And I suggest, if you're having a hard time, or even if you're not, they're really, really good to read. And so, let me just read to you one of the blog posts that I think is really important right now. It's titled, "Don't Eat It." Hello again. I've drafted several posts since my last one in April, but I wrote them more for therapeutic reasons and not to share with the public. In today's society, many people expect full transparency and want to know all the details about anything and everything. I wholeheartedly disagree and state these people don't know what they're asking for. The same goes for people who support defunding the police. They have no idea what they're asking for. Many people believe that information which is made public to be more transparent somehow stops corruption and satisfies their need to know everything. Perhaps it does initially, but I present to you the opposite is also true. The more information released about a topic allows more opportunity for it to be spun, twisted, and completely reformed to meet someone's opinion and or provide monetary gain. If you're paying attention, you'll see it every day in the media, regardless of whether you lean left or right politically. Several people who have watched the true crime TV specials or read books about the Watts case and expressed disappointment in the publication's accuracy have asked me why I won't agree to an interview with producers or authors. The reason is, I don't trust these people to not spin the facts in an attempt to sensationalize the case even more. Isn't what happened startling enough? The fact is, the facts of the case were made available by the DA's office shortly after Watts was sentenced. Even so, these producers, authors, TV show hosts, etc., reportedly cannot seem to get it correct. What's worse are the YouTube conspiracy theorists who post videos for no other reason than to stir the pot and profit from it. I've heard about from reliable sources the most ridiculous crap that gets posted regarding the Watts case. I have absolutely no respect for people who post lies and intentional gross inaccuracies for any reason, but especially for monetary gain. Do these people ever consider who and what they're making ridiculous statements about, and the effect it has on the people personally involved in this case? Of course not. They're only thinking about themselves and how much money they can make. With all that stated, I'll also state that I do like YouTube and use it often. I think it's a great source for people to share knowledge and experiences about similar interests that I have, such as fishing, cars, boats, etc., but not for the junk I've been made aware of. Probably the most ridiculous topic I've heard about is that I retired because I'm upset over some alleged law enforcement conspiracy to cover up Nicole Kassinger's supposed criminal involvement in this case because her father is wealthy. Stop and think for a minute about how stupid that sounds and really is. An entire family was annihilated, and no amount of money would have stopped the investigation and silenced me or anyone about some alleged law enforcement conspiracy to cover things up. The idea of that is completely idiotic. Without going into the case too deeply, I'll state here and now that I put all I had into this case for the victims and surviving family. I wouldn't have stopped because someone is supposedly wealthy, and neither would the DA's office. The facts are, I'm still employed by the town of Frederick and currently on medical leave for PTSD. Also, because I was the lead investigator, I know every minute detail of the Watts case, and state with confidence that Nicole Kassinger or any other person would have been arrested if they had any criminal involvement. The case is closed, and there's no additional investigation going on behind the scene. What you think, or what I think of Miss Kassinger morally, is our prerogative, but as a believer, I'll share an excerpt from Bible verse John 8:7. In this passage, a band of elders brought a woman caught in adultery to Jesus. The law of Moses demanded adultery be punished by stoning, and they asked Jesus what he would do. They said this to test him, so that they might have grounds to accuse him. If he recommended her release, he would be breaking the law of Moses, and if not, they would accuse him before Rome of inciting murder. But Jesus said nothing. He simply stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground. But when they persisted in asking him, he straightened up and said to them, "He who is without sin among you, let him be the first to throw a stone at her. Once more Jesus stooped down and wrote on the ground. When they heard it, they began to go out one by one, beginning with the older ones, and Jesus was left alone with the woman. Even if you're not a believer, let that sink in for a minute. I know this guy personally, and that's exactly what he would have done. Although this post is not specifically about PTSD, it is about mental health awareness. Think about how many times you were pissed off or felt depressed after watching or reading some media publication. And then think about the validity of what you just read or saw on TV. Does what you just learned add up and make sense? Bounce it off reliable published facts if available, or take it all with a grain of salt. If all else fails, stop watching or reading these publications for a few days and see how you feel. It worked for me. When it seems like the world is coming apart at the seams, trust that it's not, and take a look outside of what spoonful is being offered to you and what you're going to eat. And with what appears to be overwhelming hate in society right now, remember Bible verse Matthew 22:37-39. Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love thy Lord God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment, and the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. All the